Welcome to Rapture Christi. My name is Jana Harmon. I'm the president here at Kennesaw, and we have our director, Dr. Gene Williams over there, and his wife, Christi. We're at Rapture Christi, if you haven't heard it. It is a Christian Apologetics club here on campus where we defend the truth of Christianity, give arguments for God's existence, the reliability of Scripture, and other such defenses. And tonight we're going to be hosting Jana Harmon, who will be talking on Atheists Conversions to Christianity. And she is a teaching fellow and board member of the C.S. Lewis Institute in Atlanta, where she leads Apologetics Forums around the Atlanta area, addressing tough questions confronting the Christian faith, affirming the historic Christian worldview, and currently a PhD candidate who is researching the compelling topic of religious conversion of atheists to Christianity through the University of Birmingham in England. She holds an MA in Christian Apologetics from Biola University and an MS in Communication Disorders from the University of Texas at Dallas. Please welcome Jana Harmon.
Thanks for having me back. We have a small group, but it's good. So hopefully we can engage a little bit more intimately here. And I just appreciate you having me back. So I don't know what the small audience says about that, but that's another issue altogether. But thanks for having me here today. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be in front of anybody who's willing to listen, especially college students. I just really appreciate your intentionality with regard to your Christian faith. Come on in. As Jonathan said, I'm in the midst of a PhD study on atheist conversion to Christianity, so I wanted to provide a caveat that what I'm talking about tonight I'm not to the end of my study yet, so there might be some change of opinions or data or whatever as I go along. If you see this later or I talk about it differently, that's why, because I'm still in process. If I sat down with you over a cup of coffee and asked you why you believed, you might, well, this is an elite group, I think, you might sit down and start talking with me about evidence and logic and reason. But I would venture to say that the majority of people probably would tell me a story. They would start with talking to me about their family and the way they grew up, how religion was perceived in their household, whether or not they went to church, what their parents thought about religious people. I mean, you might talk with me about your friends, where you went to school, perhaps science class, where you went to university, what your philosophy professor has to say about religion. You might talk with me about relationships in your life and how they affected the way that you believe. Perhaps certain experiences that you encountered, whether traumatic or positive. You might have prolonged experiences that might have shaped your way of looking at the world. Again, both positively and negatively. There are a lot of things that shape our beliefs. A lot of reasons why we hold beliefs. And what if I asked you, say you are a believer in God or not, and I asked you to move to the opposite perspective? What would it take for you to not believe in God if you believed, or the opposite? Would it take just a rational argument? Would it take something more? That was a question that I really wanted to have answered. What shapes someone's beliefs and what allows them to change, especially with regard to the two perspectives of atheism and Christianity. They seem so totally different in their perspectives. And we talk about it a lot. We have rational arguments on each side. Sometimes they don't seem to meet in the middle there. And it seems like sometimes there's just so much pull on either side that there doesn't seem to be change. And I was very drawn to see what does produce change. And so I interviewed over 50 former atheists, and I'll never forget the first person I sat down with. There was a lovely gentleman in England, and we sat down in a coffee house, and of course we had tea. And I was very interested in what informed his atheism first, because he said on his survey that he had sent to me that he had become an atheist at age 7. And I thought something must have informed that, something pretty significant. And certainly we sat down and I asked him that question, and I was immediately saddened and sobered by his response. He said, you know, when I was a child, church occasionally on Sundays to get us out of the house. He said, but during that time, I learned that Jesus loved me. He said, but when I was 7 years old, our house caught on fire. And my little sister and I ran out of the house, and we were okay. My younger brother was trapped inside, and he died of smoke inhalation. My older brother was 11, and we saw him running outside of the house. He was engulfed in flames. And they put him out, and we put him in the ambulance, and I sat his feet on the way to the hospital. He was burned over 90% of his body and died 5 days later. They called me to talk to the minister to pray, he said, but I ran away. I could have nothing to do with God after that. And certainly for the next 20 years, he did everything he could to put religion away. He would not step foot in the church even for a wedding or a funeral. He was highly vitriolic towards religion, against anything to do with God. And he would tell anybody about it. He developed an arsenal of rational arguments justifying his worldview. And I thought, what must it take for someone like that to change their perspective? And so this was an incredible journey for me, to walk through over 50 lives and hear what shapes and forms beliefs and change of beliefs. We all see the world in a different perspective, right? We think we're right. And we try to convince others that we're right. But sometimes they don't see it from our perspective. We give them the rational arguments. We say, but it's true. And we give them good reasons, but sometimes they just can't see it. Blaise Pascal in the 17th century reminded me that we're more than just our rational self, right? We have our passions and our reasons. Sometimes we're attracted to things for not so rational reasons. He said it this way: people almost invariably arrive at their beliefs not on the basis of proof, but on the basis of what they find attractive. Sometimes we run towards the things that we love, that we like, that we want to be true. And I think that's why religious conversion is often resisted. Most people say no to religious conversion, according to the leading researcher in the field, Louis Marcos. And that's because it entails more than just a change of mind, a change of ideas. It feeds into who you are, your social belonging, your identity, your commitment, your values, your ways of living. It's a whole world kind of ask. We're not just checking the God box and living the same. No, changing ideologies is really potentially changing your world upside down, because everything about your world changes. The way you think about life, living, all of your perspectives. Especially when it comes to looking at the difference between these two worldviews, who again juxtapose or are nearly opposite in their perspectives. And that's because they have very different starting points, but they ask and answer these questions very differently, whether it's with regard to physical nature or who we are in our human nature, our humanness. You see that, as you know, the atheistic worldview, particularly the atheists in my study, part of their participation was that they had to be naturalistic, materialistic atheists that believe that only matter exists. Nature is all there is. There is something supernatural. Everything is ultimately grounded in matter and energy. And so every question that's answered about physical nature and our human nature has to be answered within this closed universe of determined cause and effect. We, in our humanity, are also mechanical beings, just like the world, the earth, and the universe is a mechanical entity made of energy, but it's nothing more than that. Whereas the Christian perspective, or theistic perspective, embraces and appreciates the physical reality, right? That it's literally rational, it's discoverable, it's predictable. You can use scientific methodology to discover much about the physical world. But in the Judeo-Christian perspective, we believe that there is a real God, a God who is there, who is ontologically real question, of course, that stands between them is this, right? Is God real or is he not real? Because that changes everything. For the atheist, he would say, of course not. God's not real. That's a figment of your imagination. We are scientifically minded, sober-minded, rational, logical individuals. There's no need for that God hypothesis. Religion, for the atheist, is reduced to nothing more than mere function. It's a function of need, born out of a function of sociological need, or perhaps sociological belonging, or psychological need for comfort and care somehow. The question is, does it work for them? Well, yes, if it works, then good for them. It's a function of belief that is constructed by the individual or by the group. But there is no substance there. There's no what. There's no something to grab hold of because it's mere fiction. There's no really real or truly true God or supernatural reality. That's essentially nonsense to even ask the question of whether or not it's true. But the Christian would beg to differ, right? The Christian says, I wouldn't believe unless it was substantively true, unless I thought God really existed, that there was intellectual grounding for it, spiritual grounding, that informs who I am and how I see reality. So that question, is it true, is very different than does it work. How someone comes to believe is very different than whether or not it is true. And you'll find that most of the atheistic theses about how someone develops belief is, again, kind of mere functional. How do they get it? What kind of family do they come from? That kind of stuff. But it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the belief itself is true. So I wanted to see if the atheists that moved worldviews so dramatically, in such a dramatic paradigm shift in the study, did they shift because of mere functional need? Or did they shift because they thought and were grounded in a belief in the true and real existence of God? So that was the big question for me. Of course, as I was looking at both what formed atheistic belief as well as conversion, I wanted to look at those functional and substantive components to determine that, right? So within the realm of function, I was looking at their social influences, their cultural influences, how their morality shaped their belief in conversion. I wanted to see how experience and emotion and their existential needs affected their belief systems and our willingness to change, as well as the substantive aspect of belief. I looked around the world and conducted this research study with over 50 former atheists. It was kind of a two-part deal where they actually filled out a survey online that really looked at all these functional and substantive components, as well as I met with each one-on-one. In person, if I could, but technology is wonderful these days. I use Skype quite a lot. I met with people around the world, and they were mostly in what's considered to be Western culture. They were a highly educated group of people. Only one held only a high school diploma. Everyone else had some form of college. 40% had graduate degrees. These were an elite and brilliant group of people, not easily duped by religious superstition. So this was not an average Joe on the street. I think these were very highly educated people. They were predominantly male. The average age of atheism or professed atheism was in adolescence at age 14, which is not surprising. When someone is coming to develop their own ideas about the world, trying to develop independence and abstract thinking and all of those kinds of things put together. The average age of conversion was in young adulthood. While they were atheists, they were fairly convinced of their atheism. There was a good level of confidence that what they believed was true. Now, I'm going to move into these. There are a number of different doors that lead one towards disbelief in God, just as there are a number of different doors that lead one towards belief. So I'd like to kind of enter into some of these doors. First, some kind of functional doors that inform people towards disbelief so that we can understand the conversion process a little bit better. One of the doors that really invites atheism is just our social culture. We live in a world of messages. We're surrounded by messages no matter where we go, whether it's socially in the culture at large, whether it's film, music, tweets, Facebook, whatever. We're constantly surrounded by messages. Television is a big one. Film, music, as well as messages from our smaller culture, our family, our friends. And the message that seems to be inviting atheism is this very, very, very strong message that God is just irrelevant. You don't need him. And so why be a believer? There's no perceived need for many people in culture. It's not something they think about. It's not something that they need, they feel. Well, one person says it this way. There's a sense that I'm just a happy atheist. I don't know if you've heard that expression before, but there are a lot of them out there. I'm going to be quoting from different people in my survey so you get a real sensibility of their perspective. One said, I had not too many worldly concerns in this life. As far as my own personal desires were going, I was on my way to being very, very happy on all fronts. I was sheltered by a family who was very loving, very nurturing. That environment sheltered me from asking the big questions. I really didn't spend much time thinking about them. Why should I worry about such things when life is good? My conversion is a big slap in the face of the theory that people find religion only when life is miserable. And someone else said, to be honest with you, I never really thought about it. It never occurred to me to take the time to sort this out for myself because I guess I didn't think it was important. I didn't see it as a priority. I never gave God much thought. And I think in a post-Christian world, that's not uncommon. Sometimes there's just simply lack of exposure to the Christian worldview, Christian beliefs, and Christian thinking. One person described it this way: I grew up in a household that was not religious. There was no discussion of religion. There was no discussion of faith. They didn't say anything bad about religion, but they never talked about it. It never came up. So I was not exposed in the house to anything at all about faith. And my friends, none of them were. None of their parents were religious either. I was in a world where religion and faith were just absent. It was a non-issue, so I didn't think about it a lot. And certainly, with those that I spoke with in my study, 57%, none of them had no kind of religious framework built for them at all in the home. No discussion. It was very much like what I just described. 25% had some kind of nominal awareness, maybe Christmas, Easter kind of faith, maybe if that. And about 18% have some form of active faith in their home. So this is not a group of people that I'm talking about that had some kind of Christian, strong Christian experience and then deconverted. And most of the people that I had interviewed had really very, very little understanding of what the Christian worldview really was, other than what they heard through the media. And overall, there was a strong sensibility that God is just not true, that God is merely social belief, it is irrelevant, it's embarrassing, psychological comfort, all those things, they bought into all of those things. There's also a message that the culture gives about who Christians are, right? And for the most part, this is the message that's received. There was one person that I said, he said, I had no experience with Christians, that they weren't in my world. The only thing I knew was what I saw on The Simpsons. So when I thought about Christianity, I thought about Ned Flanders, that goody-goody two-shoes Christian that everyone loves to hate. That was his idea. He says it this way. Let me see. He says, I grew up thinking that religion is stupid, that atheists are intellectually superior to believers. That's kind of where I was, nearly ignorant of religion, partly against it, and a little mystified as why people continued to do this. There's also a strong sensibility of intolerance of Christians, and that's not anything new to us. We hear that all the time about the bigotry of Christians and that kind of thing that's so pervasive in culture. Overall, Christians were perceived as intolerant, irrational, weak, needy people, uneducated, superstitious. And just notice The 0%, not one person in my study perceived Christians as educated people. Not one. Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot. I hope this is not offending anyone. This church is too much in my home. I'm not sure about the message, but I know about the grammar. And they misspelled atheist, and I thought, well, what kind of message are they giving about the educated or uneducated nature of Christians? I actually called and asked them to change the sign. They didn't. So my daughters and I did it for them. I just bagged them up. Did you not know
I
that?
did not know
That's
I need to come to more of these.
Another door to atheism is probably not surprising. About 40% or so were really drawn by the moral liberation that's provided without a dictator, a moral dictator. That's the perception in culture, of course, that God is a moral dictator, and that's unattractive. And it's attractive not to have that kind of overlook on your life. One person says it this way: I think for a while the attractiveness of atheism was defined by it not being Christianity. It's attractive to think I'm not going to be judged, I can sleep with anyone I want, use whatever language I want, make decisions I want, go get drunk or whatever. This is a college student. At least theoretically, I think the idea of freedom and casting off shutters and being liberated was attractive. I wanted this God stuff to be false. I lived under my parents' authority most of my life. I'm a free man now. I didn't want a cosmic authority, please. He said, you figure out that all this God stuff is not true, so naturally you would do it as you would do with anything else that's rubbish. You throw it away because you don't need it. And you can breathe a sigh of relief that you can do what you want. So that's a very attractive door. There's also the door of emotion and experience that draws people towards atheism, as we talked about in the first story, that the apparent absence of God and these traumatic events. I've heard several of those, particularly unanswered prayer on deathbeds and things like that cause people to really push away from the reality of God. Or it could be prolonged experiences over time. I had one man talk very poignantly about how he just couldn't believe in God. He says it this way: these people would talk about, oh, God loves you, and I would be like, if he loves you, then there's no way this stuff happens. This is ridiculous. There's no way it's real. I wouldn't feel this way, because if things were real, if God was real, things wouldn't work like this. I wouldn't have an alcoholic father. I wouldn't go through the stuff you go through with an alcoholic parent. In my story, there was sexual abuse. He had actually befriended a neighbor who, for lack of relationship with his own father, who ended up abusing him sexually. That to me, once that happened, life got really dark. And he really, really pushed away from God. After that, he became very, very angry. And he was around 14 at this time, and he was so angry, he had a lot of pent-up anger that it was expended on the wrestling match. And he was just penning everybody his age and stage. So they kept pushing him to higher, bigger, stronger, older guys, and he ended up breaking his neck in 5 pieces. He had a lot of pain, but it pushed him away from God. Christians often represent God in the eyes of atheists. We know that, especially when their actions are hypocritical. It's not attractive. And we all have heard the stories about, they'll say they're a Christian and then they do this or X. What's really painful is when it comes home into a very personal place. There was one young man who was 15. His parents had divorced probably a couple of years earlier. It was very ugly, very painful. He was angry about that. It was on his 15th birthday. He said, I have friends in my home, and I need to go ask my mom a question. She had invited a man in who was a Christian mission field worker, as he described him. And so he went to go find his mom to ask a question, found him in her bedroom, naked. And he said, that left a bad taste for Christianity. It wasn't long after that he said that I gave my life, not to Christ, I gave my life to Satan. And he took a really bad, dark turn after that. And you think, how can somebody come back from all of this? From all of this damage, all of these perceptions stereotypes or reality that some people know and feel and well, first, probably the widest door, at least we see and hear in culture, is the door of intellect that invites people towards atheism. If you want to be bright, if you want to be one of us, of the educational elite, you come through this door and you can be credible among the intelligent, right? That's what we hear, that you hear that God is dead, that reason is alive, that science is alive, science is king, because science has all the answers, right? In science we deal in facts, not fiction, which is what religion is. One person said it this way: I think that part of my atheism came from my background in education and science. I took a Bachelor of Science in Biology. I'd always been an avid science enthusiast growing up. As a teenager, I read all of Carl Sagan's books. I was an amateur astronomer. Science for me was the only answer for how you want to understand anything in the world, so that definitely fed into the contemptuousness, because I think I regarded people who were religious as they just don't understand science. They can't appreciate science. Either they're ignorant or stupid or things like that. I was a champion of the scientific worldview. People were just undereducated. I guess there was some mixture of those kinds of things. So that's not uncommon. It's very prominent. Over 50% thought that there was an inherent irreconcilability and incompatibility between science and religious belief. And of course, one guy summed it up this way. He said, "Here's science, science wins, that's it." That there's no choice. If you believe in the integrity of science, there's no way that you believe in a Christian or believe in God, because that's nonsense. And another message from the intellectual door is that God is a delusion, and it's for the childish thinker. One said, I just thought Christians or religious people were deluding themselves. It was, I don't want to say that it was a harmful delusion, but it was just like, why don't you deal with reality the way that it is? Why are you just kidding yourself with this nonsense of miracles and all this stuff? Obviously, we don't see any of that stuff. We can see where the naturalistic, materialistic mindset is coming through here. Or that, religion is for those, it's kind of like children and Santa Claus, that we invent a God who can care for us. She said God was more of a Santa Claus figure. He was someone that Christians looked to solve their problems or give them things they wanted, and also told them what to do, what rules to follow. It's a way of kind of oppressing and pushing away through Christianity. And of course, there's the message, the narrative that God is dangerous. One person said, in college is where I really started thinking that religion wasn't just sometimes good and sometimes bad. If there was a dominant theme, it was more harmful than anything else, and that it convinced large groups of people to do really stupid things and act inhumanely or unethically or immorally. And it's all those stories you hear about. And keep in mind, at this point, I was putting Christianity in the bucket with all other religions. This message, of course, has come forth a lot more since 9/11. But all of these messages together bring Christianity and religious belief to a place of implausibility. The social critic Peter Berger, who says if you can remove the plausibility of religion, then no one can believe in bringing it here. It's just dismissed out of hand. And that's essentially what the atheists have done successfully in terms of drawing people to themselves and dismissing the viability of religious belief. One person says, I remember thinking that atheism was a mature perspective for strong adults, and religion was for weak children and old ladies. And this one really stuck with me. He said, for a big part of the population, particularly for the cultural elites, religion is regarded as like pornography. It is a horrible, dirty, disgusting thing that we allow people to do because we live in a free society. But it should be kept in a paper bag where people don't have to see it or be affronted by it. The idea is, okay, if you want to be religious, fine. Go be religious in some little way where we can't see you, and please die off so we don't have to deal with this problem again. Because when you think that way, before you even speak anything, you've already dismissed them. I hope that makes you. That's kind of where we are, probably a subject for another day, of trying to push Christianity to the side. You don't see it, you don't have to experience it, where it's just losing plausibility. It's a dirty, disgusting thing, at least for the cultural elites. So there are many, many doors to disbelief. At the end of the day, Christianity for many are judged to be not only not true, but not good. And that no amount of evidence would be sufficient to convince them otherwise. According to 63% of those that I reviewed, there was such high resistance against even the possible option of God. And almost 40% said, I just did not want it to be true. Not only could it not be true, but I didn't even want it to be true and didn't want anything to do with it. So there was a high level of resistance. You can see that there's a lot more involved here than just a rational argument. At the end of the day, what seemed to inform disbelief, yes, rational arguments, the substance of belief had its purest form in 12%. For the most part, the reasons that atheists gave for their disbelief incorporated actually both functional reasons and substantive reasons. As Christians looking back, when I asked them to kind of reflect on what really, not what your reasons were as atheists, but what was really going on there, what was promoting this disbelief. You can see that the number here rises, that they're more, in retrospect, were willing to admit a greater sensibility of these other elements other than the rational argument as the prime reason for this belief. So now we're in this place where they're relatively closed, actually. They're highly closed against anything, that there's no perceived need, there's no perceived want of anything to do with God or religion. So what moves somebody? That's the big question. What moves someone to an open position? I see my psychologist friend lean forward. Maybe you can help me with this, Mike. Sometimes, now I will just say at the outset that many of them denied that they were even seeking, that they were seeking after anything else. Sometimes it seemed like belief in God came not through a direct pursuit, although some of them did, and we'll talk about that. Oftentimes it seemed to come indirectly by surprise, where they were disarmed or met someone or had incredible encounters, but we'll talk about that. But one of the reasons why someone is willing to look outside the box, outside the naturalistic worldview, is because they find at some point in their life, either existentially in their humanness or intellectually, and we'll talk about that later, that the answers become dissatisfying in the naturalistic worldview, particularly when it comes to personal value and purpose and why am I here and my emotions and am I more than just a mechanical robot? You're just responding to instinct and cause and effect, and am I more than that? When an awareness grows, then also grows discontent and doubt. And so sometimes those personal questions have a tendency to push them over the wall to seek something other than what they've been experiencing in their own sense of reality. But I will first say that oftentimes they're willing to look over the wall and towards spirituality, but not the Judeo-Christian spirituality. Some are highly resistant to that still, but they're willing to take a look, maybe, something else. So there were a few who actually started engaging in more Eastern kind of spiritualities, some even towards a dark spirituality. And there was one person who came to a real low place in his life, and he said, I called out to Satan to prove himself and to God to prove himself. And actually, he went on to talk about very vivid encounters with each of them separately. I wish we had time for that. But very vivid, sobering, life-changing encounters. But the social aspect of drawing someone towards Christ is a real door. Sometimes people, again, they have built these caricatures, these as Christians, as bigoted, intolerant, uneducated, all these things as Ned Flanders, and then they encounter someone who's not like that. 20% of those who kind of came through this door started investigating Christianity in order to satisfy a significant relationship in their life. For example, the happy atheist that I talked about at the beginning, he had his whole world, and then he met this gorgeous girl that made him think about it and look twice at what is this? Why does she have these moral values? Why, is she believing this way? I need to go check it out for myself. So it's just out of a matter of curiosity. He tells his story. He went to this church by himself, and his expectation is that he was going to a church building to see Christians like he would see exotic animals in a zoo. That was his perspective. He walked in, he sat down, he was warmly welcomed by sincere believers who seemed to have something more other than what he expected. They were normal. They weren't totally weird. He sat through the service. He said, I was uncomfortable. The preacher had some good things to say, but he said, I just couldn't wait to leave. He said, if I was seen inside the church, I would have been so ashamed just to be there, to be in the presence. And he said, I turned and walked. I just couldn't wait to get out. I went to the back doors, and something compelled me to stop and turn around. And he describes that experience. Said he didn't know what it was other than that he knew he had to go back, that he came here to find something out, and so he was going to check it out. So he went to the pastor. He said, so you believe God? God exists. Why don't we talk about this? And that began to open the door, just a journey. It was a journey for him, an intellectual journey, an emotional journey of trying to figure out what's true. It took quite a while, but he's now completing his PhD in theology and is an apologist around the world. But anyway, that's another story. But it was just meeting a girl, right? Some actually were married to Christian women, and they would go to some environments and again see the stereotypes of whom they thought Christians were broken down. So sometimes people just enter that way. Sometimes people enter or their walls start to come down because of emotional and experiential things that happen in their life. Remember the guy who broke his neck on a wrestling match, that he had such a poor experience growing up with his father and all of those kinds of things. Well, here he is in the hospital, and this nurse named Dolores walks in the door, and she's determined to care for him, and care for him more than just his body. She said, I'm going to pray for you. He said, I don't believe. She said, I'm going to pray for you. She starts praying for him every day. She starts reading scripture over him every day. And he said, I came to a place where I kind of liked it, and I liked her, and it was good, and I knew that she cared about me. And then he started experiencing love from, his family started experiencing love and generosity towards him because of this situation. And it turned out he ended up going to church one time, and then there was some man in the congregation who started investing in him like his father never had. And so he started receiving this emotional affirmation, this valuing as a person that he never had experienced growing up. So that was the door that opened the door towards his willingness to see what God was all about. Now, I want to make it very, very clear that even though these doors are not the rational, reasonable, intelligent argument, that sustains truth of Christianity, it's the door that enters that way. And they would all say, I think, almost without exception, I believe we have 2%, but they say they would not have sustained any kind of belief if they didn't come to a place where they found that it was substantively real or true. It's very important for me to say that they're not believing for merely functional reasons that the functional part introduces them, but then it has to be grounded substantively because these are very, again, rationally minded people. From an existential perspective, sometimes people just come to the end of themselves within the natural worldview. Again, they're bumping up the wall of meaninglessness and purposelessness, or feeling not valued, or life is not worthwhile. This one guy says, prior to my actual conversion in 2010, it was a combination of being around Christians, getting older into your 30s, She said that all the time. Starting to perceive your mortality a little bit. You're getting older and you're realizing the fear of nothingness, emptiness, meaninglessness. It was a huge driver. I remember so vividly in 2009, I came home from work and it just seemed for so many years life was just a struggle to pay mortgages, to work. It wasn't always meaningful. It was a drudgery. And I remember thinking like, what's the point of all of this? Is this all I have to look forward to another 10, 20, 30 years of just grinding through life and then dying? I remember thinking this was pointless. And then I started thinking about religious people, and I thought, I don't know. Are you? And then I was asking myself, are you sure? Are you so sure that your worldview is that correct that you are willing to put yourself as more intelligent, that you aren't willing to consider it, to consider spirituality? It was a humbling process. I had to ask myself, am I willing to consider another point of view? And that mine has nothing to offer. He says, I didn't delight in the intellectual superiority of it anymore. That was pretty much the only benefit I had. The freedom to do your own thing and the ability to carve out an intellectual pipeline for yourself. I think just reflecting on the futility of life as an atheist was something that really laid the groundwork for me to investigate something else. But of course it took him a while to get there. It wasn't anything that anybody pushed him towards, or it was a realization that he had to come to in his own time, in his own process. He was even married to a Christian, and he wouldn't have anything to do with Christianity. But this was just something that he had to come to on his own terms. And even that reality and the liberality of creating your own moral sensibility and your own moral choices, even that has its downside. One person actually said, at first it was fantastic. I could do whatever I wanted. There was no one to judge your behavior. You could write your own moral blank check, so to speak. It wasn't anything I saw a problem behind until years later through descending lower and lower levels of depravity, I would say. Just, things I did to people, ways I betrayed people, the things I gave myself license to do that were really horrific in a lot of ways. It was only after a history of this that self-reflection of taking me, that there's no bottom to it. You can just go on and on forever in terms of creating your own morality. You can excuse anything if you want to, if you've got a mind to do it. That started to become a break to what I was doing. And as I just reflected on who am I doing? Who am I becoming? Reflecting on my own moral failures. Even as an atheist, I still recognize these things were inherently not right. And even though I couldn't justify it on an ad hoc basis, which I did for a number of years, it had become too much to bear on my conscience after a number of years of this. So again, it was a process of him moving through and taking his own worldview to his logical end, existential ends in this case, to desire something more. And of course, there were those who actually intellectually dealt with or wrestled with the moral office, question, the moral argument that you really do believe that there's a real right wrong and just couldn't ground it. Someone that path through the moral door. Some actually reached a point where they were willing to call out or cry out or just ask the question, God, are you real? And were willing to pray. There were some amazing circumstances there's no way you could say that it wasn't anything other than answered prayer. They were so uncanny. Some reached a point where they were actually willing to read the Bible, whether to disprove it or to look at it more than just a caricatured object that they despised. One person said, we lost our twins prematurely. They died. My life started becoming more open. I was encouraged to read the book of John, read 3 chapters. He said, I didn't even want to touch the book, much less open it up. He said, I opened it up and I couldn't stop reading. There were a few stories I had about that when people actually start engaging in a way and from a different perspective and that they're willing to look at it for what it is, that they find something deeply beautiful and moving and true about what they find, particularly when it comes to the person of Christ. Oftentimes they'll start looking at Scripture and find this person of Christ so compelling, so other than, so strong, so courageous in the face of so wise, so intelligent, all of these things, a lot of times will come to a place of really embracing Christ, but still not liking the whole Christian thing. But anyway, it's interesting to see when these barriers are removed, these stereotypes, and they find something so other than how engaged they are, and they find the desire to move forward. Of course, there are those who do enter more through an intellectual journey, and particularly this group of people, because their primary argument is rational and intellectual. Many sought out to disprove. About 37% really started an investigative journey to disprove. There was a 14-year-old, I don't know what his IQ is. He had read all the French existentialists by the time he was 14. He was a purely intellectual nihilist. I mean, he had embraced the whole despair and everything, the whole worldview. He said, I could go work in a summer job or create a project. So I created a project to disprove all the world religions. and that was something that actually opened him, in addition to meeting someone on his intellectual level who was an Ivy League philosopher. By chance encounter, I started meeting with him almost on a weekly basis to discuss philosophical issues, and we returned after about a year towards more theological and God-centered kind of discussions. He's now a pastor of Apologetics. But regardless, sometimes within the naturalistic materialistic worldview, you know that there are answers that are sought after that are just not answered. For some, sufficiently insufficient. They're not sufficiently answers, right? Origin of the universe, origin of life, or take a whatever it is. They just bump up these realities that cause them cognitive dissonance. So they're willing to start investigating and doubting. And so they started reading. One guy said, I read 41 books. I just kept pushing and pressing. One guy said, I loved Richard Dawkins. I wanted atheism to be true. I did not want Christianity to be true. I followed Richard Dawkins' mandate to follow the evidence wherever it led. And so actually, he led me to Christian apologists like William Lane Craig and other kind of thinkers that had substance, that could counter these the new atheist rhetoric. And he said, I kept wanting Richard Dawkins to show up to debate, and his lack of willingness to come forward, or lack of willingness for many of the atheists to come up with substance to counter these weighty arguments, convinced him eventually that Christianity was true. Or just maybe a chance encounter. There was one guy who was very resistant against Christians and Christianity. He was a history teacher, and he said, I was put on this field trip with this guy, a teacher, he was a Christian, and I really didn't like him, and I really didn't want to be with him, but we were placed on a bus full of kids, and we had about an hour and a half to retreat. And he said, the first question I asked him was, how can you be a Christian and a science teacher at the same time? Because that was a non sequitur for him. He said that hour and a half changed his mind and changed his perspective. It didn't convince him in any regard. All it did was bring down the wall of the possibility that it might be possible that the Christians may possibly be intelligent and have good reason for what they believe, and even on a real strong intellectual journey. At the end of the day, what allowed someone to move incorporated both substantive components as well as functional. And within substance, well, I just want to say, God is the one who changes hearts, right? That, He uses different ways and means to bring people to Himself, but these are the means and ways in which He brought them. One thing I didn't mention also was that some actually had very uncanny encounters, visions, being awakened in the night, encounters with Christ that were so sobering and real, very similar to, if you're familiar with near-death experiences, they sound very similar to that. This just, I think probably the most poignant one that I heard was the sensibility of being in the presence of Christ, pervasive love, pervasive light, and incredible holiness, the sensibility that you're unworthy. He said, I felt so unworthy, but at the same of thought and knowing who he is and what he's saying. He said, "You forgave me." At the same time, I was feeling this incredible filth and unworthiness. And that was a pivotal encounter. He's now a missionary. He had changed his life almost immediately. But there are those kind of other spiritual kind of encounters that I also include in here. But in terms of their confidence that God exists after all of this, after their conversion, it seems to be much higher confidence in their atheism. There was a strong sensibility that they had made a grand paradigm shift, like from darkness to light, from death to life. So much so that many of them devoted their lives after conversion to full-time kind of ministry of apologetics, writing, defending the Christian worldview, and going back in and giving back into a world of darkness from which they came. About 25% are now in full-time ministry. About 25% are, that I could tell, are active apologists. They when they're podcasts, they're teachers of apologists. Many of them went on to pursue further formal degrees in order to help substantiate, again, their presence in the Christian worldview and to help other atheists to come to know Christ. It was incredibly compelling stories. The last question that I asked was, we're doing okay on time? 5 minutes. The last question I asked them was, how do you best recommend that we engage with people who are other than us? How can we influence others? How can we make a difference? How can we just communicate? We have this us-them mentality. They're over there, we're over here, and never the twain shall meet, because I think we have such caricatures built both ways. And what I heard over and over again is break the stereotype. Just break up the stereotype, because there's so many misconceptions. One person said, for me, the biggest thing is that my cultural caricatures were broken down. And everything I was told about religion and religious people was a lie. And that I was told these people are stupid, ignorant, and superstitious. And they talk about the caricaturing of the Bible and all these things. So we need to destroy these speculations, right? That's what we were commanded to do a long time ago. This is not new information, but somehow we get lost to, well, what is a speculation? What does that mean? How are they perceiving us? How can we diffuse this? How can we disarm it? We need to make Christianity plausible. Again, we need to, as Blaise Pascal said, make it attractive. He said, make Christianity attractive so that good men will wish that it was true, and then show that it is true. So we need to build plausibility not only with our lives, right? Give them no excuse to dismiss us. In our integrity, we need to love. If God attracts people through His kindness to repentance, we need to be loving. We need to be reaching out, engaging, and not withdrawing, not retreating, but engaging. And we need to learn to listen. One guy said, I think the first thing to do is to break the stereotype and say, I'm actually prepared to listen to you. Because if you do that, then in a funny kind of way, life will become less comfortable for them. Because they can't just dismiss all Christians as being idiots in the way they see them on television. So it's actually encountering something's real, something authentic, something plausible. And of course we need to learn. We need to do the hard work, and that's why we're here, to learn more about than just what you are in your little Christian worldview. You need to learn about your own worldview, about others' worldview, how science definitely can be, it's actually supported by belief in God. It's not countered, it is actually compatible with and sustained by belief in God. And we need to not be guilty of saying the same thing of stereotyping them. We need to presume nothing, avoid assumptions. We need to not think that every atheist is like Richard Dawkins, just like we don't want every atheist to think we're like Westboro Baptist or whoever they see, or Ned Flanders. One person said it this way, and I think this is so good. He said it's too easy to view people as nothing more than a collective set of arguments that must be defeated instead of another human being who is deeply longing to understand their worldview just like we are. They're people, they're humans who have joys and sorrows and all kinds of things I would say, so how do I approach? Well, they would say, well, it depends. Just as there's not one form or type of Christian, there are different sensibilities within the atheistic perspective. There are those who are really strongly, emotionally, angrily engaged, and those who just really can't care a flip. And then there are those who are just kind of in the middle, who are sober-minded and thinking about things or maybe not. But the only way we'll know that is if we engage, right? Engage them and ask questions, seek first to understand and then be understood. And look at the whole mind again. Ask those questions, like those tactical questions. What do you mean by that? How did you come to that conclusion with regard to the intellectual component, but also be willing to engage the other aspects of their life? How did they come to the belief? Think about, just ask them, where did what was your family like? Just start at the beginning. Ask them about things that inform their life, their experience, because oftentimes those are the doors in which you can enter with permission, as they gain trust, as we give them reason to trust, that perhaps they will become more curious. We build trust, we value them in the relationship, we value what they have to say, we listen to them, we give them good reason to respect us in our life, in our integrity, in our intelligence, and give them reason to ask further, to look further, to engage, and always be patient. It's like I say, some of these were very, very long journeys to believe. Some actually, once the walls and stereotypes and the caricatures and those things were broken down, once some people came to a place of existential or need or intellectual doubting and they were more open, sometimes it happened actually pretty quickly, the conversion experience. And always be covered in prayer, pray for them, pray with them, because again, at the end of the day, this is God's work. And hopefully at some point you'll see them make this grand paradigm shift. I want to end with the story in which I began, a young boy who had lost his brothers in the fire and was so angry. You think, what would it take for someone like that to change? When he was 25 years old, he was married at this time, still a very strong atheist. His wife, he said, was an agnostic. He went away on a business trip for 4 months to Japan. He came back. His wife had become Christian. He said that was not good. That caused an incredible amount of anger in him to really resurface. She asked him to come over and pick him up, or she asked him to come over and pick her up. She was at a friend's house. It was about midnight. And she happened to be at the friend's house, and they were also Christians. And so he comes in. He said, I was absolutely seething when he came into their home. He said, what they did disarmed me. He said, they invited me in. They asked me to have a cup of coffee. We talked for about 2 hours. He said, I was so angry. I was just so angry. But they were so warm and inviting. It was just really hard to be angry with them. They knew not to bring up anything with regard to God or faith or Christianity or anything like that, because it was such a hot button for him. And so I think he was so attracted to the fact that he felt valued and listened to that he wanted to go back. So he said we started almost these daily discussions for about 6 weeks. And then they just developed a friendship. And then after about 6 weeks, I started bringing up the issues of God and all my arguments, and I laid it out. And he said this went on for about 6 months. At the end of that 6-month period, he said I was just kind of I'd exhausted all my arguments. And they were intelligent, and they were warm and hospitable. They listened again and valued me. And finally, the other man said, what are you holding against God? And he said, I sat there silent. And he said, would you mind if I prayed for you? And he said, okay. So the gentleman prayed over him. He said, I left. I didn't know quite what to think about that. I didn't know what to think of that. I got up the next morning there, and I felt a peace and a joy I've never known in my whole life. And I came back and I asked him, what did you pray for? And he said, I prayed that you would have peace. And said, it took me a while, but I knew something had changed in me. And that began his journey towards faith. He's now a full-time community pastor in this little town in England. He said it's his job just to go and minister to people and touch the hurt and minister to those in pain and answer the hard questions and just be with, to tear down the stereotypes and caricatures and bring Christ to people who need it. This has been an amazing journey. I hope you've enjoyed it with me. It's been a full hour, but I think we have some time I'd love to hear your comments or questions, or if there's holes or things you wondered about that I can talk about or discuss. I'd love to address those now. Anyone? Yes?
Can you talk a little bit more about the guy who welcomed in both Satan and God? What was his story?
Would you like me to read his encounter with the dark side? I think this was so sobering for him. I didn't bring one about the Christ encounter, but that's kind of what I explained earlier, where he felt this pervasive sense of love from Christ, and that completely changed him. But the first thing, he had the encounter with Christ first. And a few days later, he had this. What did you mean? Did Satan prove himself? He said this. I also met the devil after that. I was in the apartment. It was about a week later, and I woke up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't on drugs or anything. I had been drug addicted. I was completely straight. This experience is a once-in-a-lifetime type experience that you will never forget. That it was incredible because it wasn't a dream. It was a vision with my eyes open, and I was sitting on the bed, and I was completely awake. I was 100% awake. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and it wasn't something I was imagining or anything else, because it was totally out of the blue, It didn't have anything to do with anything I was thinking about or anything. It just woke me up. I was sitting on my bed, and what began to happen was more real than real, because I was seeing things that were happening in the spirit world that were not physically visible. And when you see them in the spirit, you know that they were real. The room faded away, and there I was, sitting on the bed, and the room was gone. And the room was filled with smoke. It was the opposite of light that I experienced with the Lord. There was this smoke in the room, and it was the most incredibly sickening, horrific type of smoke, because it was some kind of, it affected me, because I didn't know there was such a place, that I could be affected in such a fashion. I was like, wow, what is this I'm feeling? It's not good. And I looked, and I saw, and what I saw was a sea of people, a panorama of people, walking shoulder to shoulder, a wide group, 20 people, shoulder to shoulder, going straight ahead. They were clearly from all walks of life, just laborers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, janitors, everybody, the full spectrum, walking in unison. And as I was walking, and as I was watching the thing, I was thinking, why isn't anyone even looking around? They're all just looking straight forward at one another, and I had this distinct impression that the only reason they were going this direction is because everyone else is doing it. Everyone else is doing it because their friend is doing it. They weren't thinking about what they were doing. They were just doing what comes naturally, what was expected of them in life. And as they were walking, I could see that there was an edge where the road just ended. A huge sidewalk just ended. It fell over the edge. And that was where the smoke was coming from. Because when they fell, they were screaming. And when they hit the bottom, the smoke would rise up. And then I said, this is really strange. These people are going over this cliff and they don't even see it, but they're all doing the same thing. And then I looked, and over on a knoll, over on the side, there was a dark figure standing on the knoll with his arms outstretched in the direction that they were going. And it seemed like he put his arms out, and they were in the power of what he was saying. This is the way to go. And on his arms were snake skins all along his arm. It was clear to me. These people were all doing this because everyone else was doing what everyone else was doing. They weren't even thinking about it. They weren't thinking about their lives. They weren't thinking about the direction they were going. Sounds like our cultural distraction. They were just thinking about money, things, life, because everyone else does it. And I could see that they were being directed by this creature on the knoll on the hill, and they were under his power. And I thought, okay, these people are going to hell. This guy on the knoll, he's got to be the devil. And as soon as I said that, he turned around and looked at me and started walking towards me. And the experience was like, instead of having a face, he had a vortex. It was the opposite of the light that gives light. It was a vortex that sucks you into hell. It was a vortex of blackness. It was distinctly Satan, because when you see him, it's not like he needs identification. Anyway, he was telling me that as he was walking towards me, he said, I hate you so much and I'm going to kill your soul. I realized what he was saying is that I have a soul. And if someone had thrown me into a tank of great white sharks, that would have been a huge relief compared to what I was feeling. Because what I was feeling, I had never felt. That I have a soul, and I didn't know that the soul could be actually extinguished, could be killed, could be tormented. And it was like the most horrific thing I could ever possibly imagine. And I was trying to scream, but no screams were coming out, and he was walking towards me, and the fear was so intense. He came towards me, saying these words over and over again. He came to within 2 millimeters from touching me, and the whole time I was saying, I don't know how to say, I rebuke Satan in Jesus' name. I was just saying, Jesus, 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 and he was gone. But it was really Satan. It left me with the distinct impression not only was Jesus 100% the truth, but Satan was 100% real in the whole world, like 1 John 5:19 says, lies and wickedness are under his control. So that was that. And it's not surprising that he immediately became a missionary. He practically lives out of his suitcase. He is on a compelling journey to help people know Christ and be subject to this kind of darkness. I know that took a while, but you can probably understand why. Anything? Yes.
Did you ever run into anyone like Charles Templeton or Bart Ehrman who had lived as a Christian, had been a Christian apologist, had lived a life involved in church, and then turned away, say in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and then came back?
No, all of those that I interviewed seemingly had some kind of childhood belief or experience and then left that, but they weren't well-grounded like a modern. They didn't know the fullness, the wholeness of what they were rejecting. Not in the study anything. Yeah, that's another bear altogether, I think. Any thoughts about that? Or?
I don't know. My best friend since I was 10 years old is in that situation now. So, in our house, I kind of refer to him as Templeton, to keep reminding that, where he is really sad. And I think that he's chosen it so that he can be unshackled to just have fun and do whatever he wants to do and not feel guilty about it. So I'm hoping that he'll come back. But when someone is that well grounded and completely understands what it is they're rejecting, I don't know very many people who have come back from that. So.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you ever see that video by Stroll? It was Reasons, what was it?
Faith Under Fire?
No, and the Case for Faith. Case for Faith, that's it. Where he interviewed the evangelist who hung out with, who was actually more popular than Billy Graham.
That's Charles Templeton I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that who it is?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I couldn't remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was to watch him say, I just miss Jesus.
Mhm.
To watch him, but I can't come, he just, something in him, he just was broken, he just couldn't do it. It was a very sad thing to see that. You know, so that's that guy's name. Yeah, that's who that reminded me of. So you.
Yeah.
This sort of reminds me of, you know, some of these, you know, I mean, I wasn't raised in a Christian home, and it wasn't until I got out of the Marine Corps, I was indifferent. I've been to a church before growing up. I mean, it was just nonsense. I mean, and it didn't mean anything to me, and didn't serve any purpose, and I really didn't see any difference between Christians or anyone else. I wasn't angry at them. I just, you know, they're just whatever, you know, it was just another thing people did. And I just gave it a shot. Went to church. Some of the things they said seemed illogical. Some of them seemed to me really incoherent. So I left and went to a different one. I said, you know, what I was doing was I would have done the same thing. If I was living in a Buddhist area, I would have went to a Buddhist temple because I was searching for something bigger. But I wasn't going to be satisfied unless it was well-grounded. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed. I mean, I would have investigated and I said, hey, there's something here. But you know, I felt that I was blessed because I ran into some people who were knowledgeable, who were able to say, here's some ways of thinking about this and this and this, and that allowed me to continue to push. And just like, you know, I was telling you today, even to this day, I'm still skeptical about almost everything I hear about Christianity. I mean, I still am. Almost everything I hear, I have to weigh it out and I have to study it out because half of it seems still incoherent, you know, to me. Because I'm like, you guys are saying, you know, I believe in Jesus, but you sound like you're so illogical. I mean, why are you doing this? You know, this cannot be God. This God can't be illogical. He's always logical. He's never confused, you know. So, and I still struggle, you know, with that. And after all the years I've been doing this, you know, so that's why I like apologetics, because we hold each other's feet to the fire and we say, you know, being illogical is not going to get it. You know, we're not going to allow each other to get away with it. So that's what, you know. So when you said that about if it wasn't, you know, that it might have been functional reason, which it probably with me was functional, but it had to be grounded or I was out. I'd be like, well, this one makes no sense. I'm going to the next one. And I had to do that to several churches. I mean, I literally did because they were all over the place. I mean, you know, it's a wonder anyone ever comes to Christ. With Christians being a representation of Christ. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, when they say hypocrites is a big problem, you know, we're all God's guy to represent Him, you know, but we fell miserably, you know, and it's only by the grace of the Holy Spirit that, I mean, I really believe that anyone becomes saved because it can't be because of our example. I mean, we you know, at least not, it wasn't my case, you know, so, but anyway, but my story's not unique from what you were interviewing, I'm sure.
Yeah, that skeptical tendency, just the drive that they have to be substantiated. So, yeah, a lot of them talked about that. The questions never stop. There's a degree of skepticism that's always, but some of the skepticism is healthy, right? Because it continues to drive and push you and to find answers of substance for what you believe. So I think it's actually a good thing.
At this point, I have went through so many of the arguments. Even if some bad things have happened since I've been a Christian, some really bad things. And I actually remember saying to God, I'd turn away from you if I knew that everywhere I turned, you weren't already there. I said, I can't even turn away from you because you're everywhere. I can't, you know, I said, I don't understand you. I don't understand why this, you know, I worked through those things. But I said, I would actually turn away, but if I turn around, you're still going to be right there, or you're here, you know. I was like, I don't even know, now that I believe, I can't even unbelieve. I said, I can't even stop. I mean, it's just a fact. God is a brute fact to me. I mean, literally. I mean, it just is. I mean, and I so it took a while to get to that point.
I'm wondering, was there any sort of large percentage of people like C.S. Lewis that you interviewed who converted to theism before converting to Christianity or some other religion?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I meant to bring that out. There are a lot of people who actually come to a place of intellectual belief but still unwillingness, are engaging it. Perhaps, I know Lewis believed in the reality of God, but not. It took him about 3 years on the journey to come to the reality of Christ. For many of these people, it's a journey. They'll come to accept, or they'll come to the place where they can't refute the intellectual argument, but they are so unwilling yet to embrace the aspects and the whole world and the worldview that comes with it. But very much so.
Yeah. I have a friend that I've been discussing these things with for several years, and over that time he has converted from a hard atheism to theism. Now he's still not a Christian, and I just read Nabil Qureshi's book, great book, Seeking Out, Finding Jesus, where he took forever, and he did the same thing that he converted to. Essentially, the Judeo-Christian sort of thought of a God before he even came to fully believing in Christianity. But it sounded like, a lot of them, like, would you say that they studied the Christian, that they came to the theism through the studying the arguments for Christianity, because you're talking about, like, finding Jesus, and, like, did they become more open to theism through that, or did they just convert right to Christianity?
Most of them through a theistic perspective.
Yeah.
When they found the either scripture or just this world of apologetics they didn't know existed, it started them on basic, does God exist? I think that's where most of them started. Or, like the historian, is scripture reliable? Is it something that's trustworthy? So they really start on these kind of greater or broader issues, and oftentimes they move towards Christ.
What percent of your subjects are lukewarm in your faith?
I think I kind of referred to them. These are not nominal Christians. These are because a lot of them actually converted at great cost. Rather than embracing religion for a social group, they actually have to leave all their social group in order to become a Christian. Kind of like Muslims would be, or Jews or whatever. It's oftentimes they really have to lose a lot in order to embrace, and so they understand the cost. And so then the reality is that they embrace it heartily and with good confidence and with their heart. It's just all out. I was so inspired by these people, what they've done in such a short time of their Christian lives, or what more than the people that I've grown up with and been Christian their whole lives and seem just to be happy, in their own Christianity. These people are movers and shakers for Christ. It is extraordinary.
Well, what you're saying rings very true in my life. I was raised as a Christian, so I was around people, so it wasn't very difficult for me to embrace. But being married to him, and there was came to a point that he was like, either I'm going to study this out, I'm going to really believe, or I'm not. And that was a scary place for me, because I'm thinking, what is he about to do? That was very scary. And so, once he had dug in, it was like all in. And just, once he made that place, it was like so going, he was dragging me with him. And I thought that I knew what I was doing because I was raised in it, but had no clue. So it's pretty amazing to watch someone that comes from that take off.
It comes from a different place. I think there's an appreciation, there's a drive.
I had to give up my family because I told you I wasn't raised in they didn't excommunicate me, but I can promise you I'm not invited to anyone's house, ever.
Your
My family. No, because all I do is make them feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Because even if they start, raising King and cussing and doing what they do, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry." They always feel like they have to continue to apologize. So since they do that, I'm not invited. They'll have family reunions and sometimes, you know, they forget to let me know, you know, or family get-togethers, and they'll forget to let me know. I don't talk about God or anything. I try not to do anything.
You're just a visible.
I'm just a, you know, and so I see it happen almost instantaneous, you know. And my dad recently was in the hospital. I went and visited him. He said, "You still doing that God thing?" And I said, Dad, I've actually got a PhD in this God thing, you know. And I said, he said, "Yeah, I can't even remember what it's in," you know. And I said, "Yeah, I know," you know. And you know, so it's still the same as it always was, and I doubt it'll change, you know. I mean, I can't live in ignorance. I just logic. I just can't. I can't be intellectually dishonest with myself. I mean, I just can't. I would rather die than, you know, than that. I mean,
I was very concerned we were changing religions a bunch of times. When I did not realize what he was doing, and he was researching all the different religions, and I didn't understand what, you know, he was coming at me with all these questions and all these ideas and things he was studying. I was thinking, okay, I can't be a woman. You know, I can't be, I mean, because I didn't realize what he was doing, but what he was doing is he became this, just seeking knowledge in every direction, and it was amazing to watch that happen. So, in one way, it was kind of, I was blessed to have been raised in the environment, but the amount of thirst I've seen from people like him is pretty astounding.
And it's easy to take your Christian worldview for granted and become complacent and just settle in that and really not, unless you're really engaging, you know, in these alternative worldviews and really seeing and experiencing the need for knowledge. So you don't quest, you don't seek it. So we've got a living testament here. It's really wonderful. Anything else?
How did you find these people? Do you have references?
That's a good question. When I started this study, the only people I knew were like the famous authors, you know, who became apologists to write. And so I started just simply by finding or running across an article of a converted atheist or a blog or posting or certain Facebook friends that have ministries or whatever. I started contacting them individually. But I must say, if I can give kudos, Paul Copian was tremendous in using his influence towards helping me connect. But at the end of the day, it was kind of like Jesus saying, if you put your net on this side of the boat, and I will throw it up. By the end of the day, I had 75, I think, that agreed to participate with me, even though I only had 50 something that ended up participating. There's a lot more out there than I think we know. We think it's extremely rare, but it's more common than we know, I think.
So I was going to ask, what do you think we should do with, like, when we're ministering to people about the fact that there are, like, still a lot of things that we can't know for sure about Christianity, and they could maybe use them to, like, say that there's, like, a flaw that we believe that way. Like, someone asks, you know, well, if Jesus was so important, like, what did he do from the ages of 12 to 30? And it's like, you don't want to say either way because you don't really know. You think we should just fall back on what we do know?
That sounds like a good answer to me. I mean, none of us know all the answers when we're interacting with somebody, but I certainly wouldn't try to speculate or project in an area that we don't have knowledge, right? And if there are certain things that you don't know, you just great question. I mean, introduce you to Dr. Williams, yes, or someone who is knowledgeable in that, But there's no shame in that. I think that one person, she's a PhD scientist at the university, she's very quiet about her conversion because she's sensitive to the vocational challenges that come with that, being a professed Christian on a prestigious university campus. But one thing she said to me stuck with me. She said, the person that I was having a conversation with, when we were looking at information and knowledge and I was trying to understand, she She said he was walking alongside of me in a learning capacity. She said if he would have come across as knowing all the answers, I would not have respected him, and I would not have gone along that journey, because as a scientist, you're looking, you're open, you're learning, what is the evidence going to prove? And if you already have all the answers to every question, you're not open to the evidence. So I think for us as Christians, I think humility is a huge part, but also knowing what the resources are. If you don't know the answers to some of that, you can put them together, right? So let's go figure that one out together, because that's a fantastic question. Probably out of time, but
Any ideas on, especially scientists looking for evidence? Typically, the evidence they're looking for is in the physical realm of things. How do you get them kind of into the mindset of faith being evidence of things not seen? How do you got any ideas on helping them embrace the unseen reality of things?
Well, that's a good thought. First of all, I just want to say that faith is based upon things that we do know, right? They're based on, we have faith in things for good reason. Like, I married my husband in faith, but I had good reason that I would still be married 20 years later, because he's a good man, and I spent time with him, and he proved himself to me. And he's a better man than I ever even thought. But at the end of the day, even in the scientific realm, in terms of think about this, scientists make judgments about reality, even unseen reality, based upon what they know, like dark matter or dark energy or whatever. Things that you don't actually see, but because of what's manifested in physical reality, they draw a conclusion about what they do know. Same thing, say for example, with the origin of the universe. There are certain things that we do know about the origin of the universe, the Big Bang. And there are implications for those scientific realities, that there had to be someone, an agent or something that stands outside that caused that event to occur. So what is that? So it's not as if we have to convince people of things in an unseen reality that have no evidential proof. Well, I don't want to use the word proof. Convincing idea or evidence that suggests that there has to be something more. There has to be a causative effect, a cause that causes the effect, a cause sufficient to cause the effect. What would that cause be? So you use, like Stephen Meyer says in the Intelligent Design Movement, he says, we are not making claims based upon things we don't know. We're making claims based upon things we do know. For example, the amount of information in a cell. That's an extraordinary amount of information in the cell. Where does that come from? Well, we know that information comes from our mind. Well, within a purely Darwinistic understanding of evolution, where does that information come from? It's extremely sophisticated. It's very complex. And we know that information comes from the mind. How can you explain this? It seems as if this explanation has more viable reason to it than this. So you take what they do know and what they do affirm and try to help them see that it requires more than what their worldview can provide as an explanation. Does that make sense? Anyone want to add to that?
I'll just say the difference between, that faith that you referred to, there's a huge difference between intelligent faith and blind faith. And they say children, people, I've said this before, but we should have faith like a child, right? Childlike faith. Well, some people unfortunately think that means blind faith. But you take a 2.5 or 3-year-old, put him at the top of the stairs and tell him to jump into his dad's arms, and he may do it because he has a reason to have faith that his dad's going to catch him. That's childlike faith. Put that same child at the top of the stairs and put a stranger at the bottom of the stairs and say jump. The child probably will never jump because there's absolutely no reason for that child to have any kind of faith whatsoever that this person they don't know will actually catch them. So childlike faith is not blind faith. People try to put that on Christianity. That's not what childlike faith is. It's just pure faith in what you know to be true. And with childlike faith would be undoubting faith, and that would be That'd be awesome, but, you know, we have a lot of things pulling at us. It's always causing us to doubt. And when I doubt, I just remind myself of why I believe, and those doubts go away quickly, because there's too many reasons to believe and too few to doubt. You know, that would be my 2 cents on that. But we're gonna have to, yeah, some of these guys stay here till midnight, they're looking at the news. I mean,